right, friends, so it looks like I thought I was live and I wasn't actually live for the last 8 minutes. So I'm gonna go back to the start and go over again. I'm using a streaming software which gives me a little bit of a hard time. So I think that's what happened. I'm really sorry about that. If you were waiting, I didn't realize that I hadn't actually started the stream. So I'm very sorry about that, but now we can get down to business. So I have here a combing project. I am working on making a yarns for a shawl called the Ahsoka Shawl by Knit Graffiti. If you are interested in that pattern, I have it linked in the description, and you can click on it and check it out. And if you're interested, give her a pattern purchase because she makes really, really beautiful patterns. So I've gone ahead and spun, this is about 5 ounces of some blue BFL or blue-faced Leicester wool. I combed the fiber from some dyed fleece that I had and spun it up on my e-spinner. So having done that for a while, I was getting a little bit tired of spinning the blue, so I decided to switch to this white. And this is actually different white fiber than what I originally planned on using. I had originally planned on using a pure blue-faced Leicester fleece, but I found that I didn't really like the way the locks were combing up. So I decided to switch to this fleece, which is a blue-faced Leicester border Leicester cross. So those are 2 different breeds of sheep that were bred together, and this is the offspring's fleece. Hopefully that made sense. So I have this fiber. I've already lashed some onto my comb because I thought I was doing a live stream and I hadn't actually hit the start stream button. So that's my mistake, but I already lashed all this fiber on just by taking the butt end and putting it on the comb with the tip end hanging off the front here. And now I have my combs, and I'm going to take the tip end of my combs, which are rather sharp, so if you have these of your own or you're going to buy some, just be careful because they are sharp and can injure you. So I also gave this a little bit of a spray with just this water that I have in this spray bottle. I find that using water or combing milk is very helpful for keeping static down in your fiber. So I am just going to now draw the tips of this comb against the tips of these locks and just start doing the combing process. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and hopefully show you how this is done. So I've got the locks, the tips of the locks, and I'm just going to catch those with the tips of the comb and then draw through. And you see I transferred some wool from this comb to this comb, and we're just going to continue doing that until this comb is pretty much empty. I'm using the tips of my fingers just to kind of guide the fibers onto the comb so that we don't have too much waste. And I am just combing away. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I know the camera's a little bit further away, so if you want me to scoot you closer to what I'm doing, I can. Just leave me a comment in the chat and I will scoot my tripod a little bit closer to what I'm doing. But I wanted to make sure you could see me as well. Folks are saying hi in the chat, which makes me happy. I'm glad you guys are building friendships there too. So this is just a little bit of waste that I just pulled off of this comb, and I'm just going to set that aside, and I'll probably use it for a different project. It's still perfectly usable fiber. It's just not the prime stuff like this that I want to hold on to and use for this combing. So now I'm transferring back onto the stationary comb by holding these tines at a 90-degree angle to these tines, like these are pointing up and these are pointing to the side. And then just bringing this down over the stationary comb. Got a little bit of VM I'm gonna pluck out. And again, I'm just repeating this process until all of the fiber has gone from the comb in my hand back onto the stationary comb. And then there's a little bit left on here that's not transferring, so I'm just going to take that off, and that's our combing waste. And then I'm going to repeat. I just almost rolled over Bear on my rolling chair. Luckily he's fine, but got a little close to him, and he lifted up his head to say, "Hey, Mom, be careful." Yeah, so I'm just transferring the wool back onto this comb. I'm going to do another pass back and forth, and that should get this in good shape for me to remove it from the combs, and then it'll be ready for spinning. I'm glad you guys are doing well. I'm kind of glitchy. Yeah, the frame rate is a little bit low. I think it's 30 frames per second. So it's a little bit, I think that might be what you're seeing, Perla, that it might be a little bit glitchy. Can you still hear me okay? I hope you can. All right. So now we have transferred all the wool back and forth twice. And so now we are ready to remove this wool from the comb. And if you've watched any of my combing videos, you surely already know how to do this, but I will show you what I'm doing anyway. So I've got my diz here. I'm not using the normal diz that I use, which is this stone that my boyfriend made for me. It's my favorite because it makes a very thin roving, which is very easy to spin from. But I need a little bit of a thicker roving today. So I'm using this diz, which has 3 different sized holes. And I'm going to use the smallest of those holes, which is still bigger than the hole on this, but is the smallest one on this diz. And so what I do is I take my diz threader and put it through that hole like that. And then I take it here, get the tips of these fibers through the threader and then through the diz hole. And then I just draft back and then push the diz forward, and that creates this little piece of combed top. And then we just continue drafting and dizzing until we've removed all of this fiber and have a piece of roving that's a couple feet long. All right, I'm glad you guys can hear me okay. If the frame rate is distracting, let me know and I'll see what I can do about adjusting that in the future. Sometimes this roving falls apart on me a little bit, so hopefully that doesn't happen, but if it separates, it's not the end of the world. It's just not quite as organized as if it all stays together. right. And then we just take this and I'm going to wrap it around my hand to create this little nest of fiber, which we can see is beautiful and ready to spin from and very nicely prepped. And then that will go in this bin that I have over here, which is slowly filling up with fiber, which is fantastic, so that I can do some spinning after we finish filling up this little bin. So again, we've got a little bit of waste to pull off. I have a bag here where I'm just keeping all of my waste. Like I said, I'll probably find another use for this fiber. It's just not prime, not quite as nice as what I want in this combing project. Jen asks, what is the fiber you're using? So I am using some blue-faced Leicester border Leicester cross locks that I bought online. They are white or maybe cream colored, a couple inches long with a little bit of boing to it. There's a little bit of VM in this fleece, but not a ton, not overwhelmingly so. And yeah, I really like it. It's not the fiber I had originally planned on using for this project. I had planned on using a pure BFL fleece that I have up on the shelf behind me, but I didn't like the way it was combing up. It was very silky, and I wanted something with a little bit more crimp and fluff to it. The fibers were very nice, and it was making a very nice, silky, soft, combed top, but it wasn't as easy to comb, and I prefer working with this, at least so far. So I'm gonna continue doing that. So again, this is how you put it on the comb. I missed this the first time because I thought I was recording or live streaming and it hadn't actually fully started. So I take the butt end and lay that on the tines of the comb, and that secures it to the comb so it doesn't fall off or anything. And then I'm just going to take this fiber and repeat that process until my comb is like maybe a quarter of the way filled height-wise, because when you start combing, this frizzes up and poofs up and gets a lot bigger. I'm just getting the tips all organized. I like having the tips facing out just for consistency. I believe that if you spin from the tip end, you have a stronger, more consistent yarn, but don't quote me on that. I might be making that up. But it's much neater if you have a kind of a technique to how you load your combs. You will usually have less waste than if you were just lashing it on. Because I've tried that and it never seems to work quite as well as this a little more perfectionist method, but it makes the fiber a lot nicer to work with and reduces your waste a lot, in my experience. So that's what I would recommend. I'm still just trying to find the tips of these locks, which you can kind of identify because they're wound into a tighter curl and they're a little bit yellowish because they've been slightly sun damaged, not really like damaged. It's not a tender tip like you find on some fleeces, but the sun has changed the color of the fiber, which helps you identify those tips, which is nice. Jen says, thanks for telling us about the locks you're combing. You're welcome, Jen. No problem. All right, so I think we filled this again, at least as much as I want to fill it, and then I will give it a little spritz and start combing. Right, and then I'm just continuing the process, moving the fiber from one comb to the other, and doing my best to remove any vegetable matter or less than prime fiber. This is really trying to isolate the best stuff for spinning a really, really nice yarn. You might notice that I am keeping the vegetable matter pieces separate from the combing waste bits, and that's because I don't want the VM in with the combing waste, because I might hand card or drum card the combing waste, and carding doesn't get out that vegetable matter. So as I'm coming across it here, I'm just removing it altogether, so I don't have to deal with it again. And then here's our last pass. You can see I'm kind of smoothing down the fibers to try to reduce static with my free hand. Also being careful of those tines because I don't want to accidentally hurt myself. All right, and now we're ready to diz off again. And that's how you comb. It's a repetitive process, much like a lot of crafting processes, but it creates a really nice fiber to spin from, and I think it's worth it. So I know I mentioned that this is for an Ahsoka shawl by Knit Graffiti, which I have a link to the pattern in the description down below if you're interested. It's a striped and brioche shawl with some lace, some stockinette, I think some garter stitch. And I am working my way through prepping and spinning the yarn for it, and then I can cast on and get knitting it. But I still am in the making the yarn phase of this project, which is fine. It's combing and spinning white isn't my favoriteest activity, but it's gonna make a really, really nice product. So that's, you know, why I'm doing it. But I am pretty excited to get to the knitting portion, particularly because I haven't tried brioche before. So that's a new technique that I haven't tried. So I'm excited to get to trying it and maybe learning a new technique. Well, hopefully learning a new technique. Otherwise, I might have done a lot of work for a shawl that I can't knit. So I'm fairly certain I won't have too much of an issue. I've been reassured that brioche isn't that complicated, and like I can do color work and I can do lace work. So I'm not too worried about it, but it is a new technique. Perla says, brioche is so fun, makes a really cool fabric. So that is good feedback. Thank you, Perla. Oh, we got a big piece of the M here. So I'm just going to remove that, get it set aside. Trying to get everything usable I can out of this handful before I put the rest in the waste pile. But we're getting towards the end of having obvious locks. Everything is pretty fluffed at this point, so there aren't a ton of intact locks left in this handful. All right, I think that's about as good as it's gonna get. No, I got one or two more locks here I can pull off. There we go. All right, and then the rest of this handful is just gonna go in this pile with my combing waste, which I can just stick in this bag. And I'll pull out a fresh handful, which has some more obvious lock structure. Jen says that she likes brioche too, but she hasn't done any of it for a while. Maybe you should pick a new brioche project, Jen. We can work on brioche together. That could be fun. hear a chair creaking, it's because my boyfriend is in the room. I think he's playing video games. But he's got his headphones on, so he can't really hear me. Oh, Perla says we should do a group shawl knit along. That would be fun. If you guys wanna join me on this journey. But anyway, I was saying Alex is in the room, so if you hear squeaking, it's just him readjusting in his chair. Oh, Jen says that would be good. I don't know, if you guys want to join me, you're welcome to. I'll let you know when I start actually knitting, if you want to buy yarn, but if you want to prep your own, get started. And Perla says, hi, Alex. But like I said, I don't think he can hear me. Unless I should be louder, try to make him say hi to you back. Hey, Alex.
Yeah.
Perla says hi.
Hi.
Hopefully you heard him. He said hi back. I think we're about there. Ready to do some more combing. So again, I'm gonna spritz and then start combing. All right. So, like I said, just kind of repeating this, doing the repetition that often happens with crafting projects. You know, even when you're knitting, you're doing the same stitches over and over again. There's a lot of repetition when you make something from scratch. So now that I'm almost to the end of this comb, I'm just taking the fiber by the tips, putting a rotation into it, and then feeding it onto the comb. And that just gets a little bit extra off. Oops. I'm not done yet. I've got another 2 passes to go before I can diz. Got distracted. And somebody tell me in one of my videos that my combing technique wasn't right, which is fine. Some people have different opinions on the method that you use. So they were telling me I should go sideways as opposed to how I kind of turn up a little bit. And that's just personal preference. That's just the way I like combing. I find that it's easier for me. It's the way I prefer, which is not necessarily the way that anybody else has to do it. I'm just trying to give you kind of a foundation to go off of if you want more information about how to do some of these techniques that aren't quite as well known, like combing. I think your average person knows a lot more about knitting than combing. So I'm just trying to give you a little bit of a baseline, making sure you know about safety and best practices, but you know, there's no one true right way to do crafting. Whichever way makes you happy, as long as you're not, you know, hurting somebody, I think you're fine. All right, there we go. I'm getting a little bit of debris on my pants. I'm wearing black pants, and I can definitely see the little bits of dust and VM that's coming out of this as I comb. So maybe I'll have to vacuum after I finish filming today. Speaking of filming, I've got a very exciting video planned for Friday. It's about clothes moths, which might not be a problem depending on where you live, but are certainly a problem where I live. And I try to be pretty proactive with my fiber storage techniques and stuff, but had a little bit of a mishap, which I'm going to share with you in Friday's video. Jen says, we all find our way and style of doing anything. It is so true. All right, and there's another nest of fiber, all combed and bundled up. I think that's our third or fourth today. We're making good progress. So once I'm done filling this bin, I'm going to spin this fiber into a fingering weight yarn. I'll have to check and make sure I know how much I have to make, but I might do it in a couple batches. Like, I think I'm done spinning the blue for now. I'm probably almost certainly gonna need more yarn, but have enough to at least get a good start. And I imagine the knitting project is going to take me a while, so I'm just going to get started with not all the yarn that I need, which I think will work out fine. Fingers crossed. So I'm pretty excited about getting this fiber spun so that I can start knitting on this project. I've been eyeing the pattern for a while, and I'm very, very excited to get casting on. But I do still have to spin all of this white first. Well, like I said, not all of it. I just need to get at least a good head start. Perla says, how many colors do you need for that shawl? And I need just the two, just the white and the blue in my version of the shawl. I would pull out the pattern and hold it up to the camera, but it's behind my tripod and I don't know if I can actually access it without needing to move the camera, which I think is unnecessary. So let me know if you guys have any questions for me. I think I'm gonna go until about 2 o'clock. So I got some stuff going on this afternoon that I need to be ready for. But I think that'll be a nice hour-long live talking about combing and this project and whatever else we've been talking about while we've been here. Sounds like Perla's gotta go. So bye, Perla. Thanks for hanging out. It was really, really nice to see you. Well, not see you, but hang out with you. And I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you again next time. All right, we've got 2 more passes, or 1 back and forth, to go on this fiber. And then we can get it all dizzed off. See what I mean about that fiber poofing up though? Like it used to be down here and it wants to be pretty much filling the comb. Which is why you don't want to completely fill the comb when you are putting on the locks, because the locks poof up a lot. might have overfilled it because I just lost a little bit of wool off my combs. Which is okay. It's not the end of the world. Just lost a little bit, but gotta be careful not to let it fall off these tips. Alrighty. And then we're just gonna go ahead and diz off this fiber. Pulling it through that loop. And then drafting and pushing up the diz to pull off this combed top. There we go. All right. I think I'm gonna stop combing now and do some cleanup so that I can get my spinning wheel set up to do some spinning of this fiber. Not in this live stream, just generally. So I'm going to cover up my hand combs because I don't want those drifting around unprotected. You see this just wraps around and then buckles on so it doesn't come off. Got this handful of VME locks, so I'm going to throw those away. And I'm going to take my combing waste, or seconds, and put them in the bag for that. And then pack up these locks. Which you can't even tell I've made a dent, despite the fact that I've got this bin like, I don't know, halfway full. You can't even tell, which I think is pretty funny. So we'll set these aside and then push some stuff out of the way. Perla says, or sorry, Jennifer says, your nests of BFL look really good. I haven't tried BFL myself. Well, you should try it. It's a very popular fiber, at least here in the US. It's one of the main ones other than merino that most people have experienced. So if you want to, I would say check it out. So I'm just collecting some bits of VM and debris that I've collected on my table. I'm just gonna brush those off into the trash. And then I've made some nice space so that I can do my spinning when I'm ready. Again, just making sure those combs are nice and secured. So unless anybody has any questions for me, I think I'm gonna go ahead and start wrapping up. I'm really happy that you all were able to join me today. I had a really fun time hanging out and working on this project with you, working on filling up that bin full of combed nests so that I can get to spinning and make some progress on the white so that I can start casting on for that shawl. I hope you all are well and take care. I hope that, Jen, yeah, you should definitely check out BFL. It's a fun fiber. I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more like this, and comment if there's anything you want to say or anything else you'd like to see. I hope that you all take care and have a fantastic day. And again, thank you so much for hanging out with me. It's been fun. All right, friends, I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. It's been great, and I will see you in Friday's video. Bye.